Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are exploring one of the most familiar and influential names in the Hyderabad real estate scene. And as you can see from the thumbnail and on the screen, it's My Home Group. Well, in our usual style, we will understand what the group and the corporate profile is. Let's assess some of their USPs, key things that distinguish, and look at the active pipeline that they have. Well, this is a brand that's grown steadily, built up from ground over the past 35 years. Actually, I initially thought Maha Cement, which is one of their other businesses, was the first one, but it turns out it's the constructions. So they started off with constructions and then into cement, which is the Maha Cement, and then eventually ventured into power and education. Education, as you might know, some of you might know, is the Meru group of schools that they have, and also another school that's been listed in their corporate profile. But yes, this is truly a massive success story. 35 years in the making. Started with smaller gated communities long before branching into the bigger, well-known gated communities that we know as of today. Now, a few things that I believe these folks do really well, and builders like My Home, Aparna, Prestige, and Rajpushpa to some extent have really understood the modern Indian metro consumer really well. And I think that's where they struck gold. They've struck a good balance between price and perceived value, which is what most buyers in cities like India sort of chase. We are a price driven market in the metro, and you always seek value. And I think these builders have really cracked the code to it. And that's what translates into high market share for players like Aparna, My Home, and the few others that we've talked about. Now, in particular, My Home is a volume player, and what we mean by that, I'll come to that in a bit. And it reflects in their pipeline. Most of their projects are humongous. They have massive number of ongoing projects, upcoming projects, and most of their communities are huge in terms of scale. As an example, there's no other player who's probably come close to a 75-acre project in a prime area. Yes, there are many gated community villa projects, but 75-acre in a relatively prime area is something that My Home can pull off, right? We will see that they've strategically structured their clusters and how they've actually gone about in terms of the location choices as well. So yeah, this is a quick brief history. This is something that you can find on their website. Very clear in terms of their strategy, and what the mission has been is to vertically integrate. And real estate is a business that really depends on raw material, and cement is one of them. So they've made a conscious choice to invest in the space of cements, and as a result, it gives them the price advantage that they potentially tend to pass down to the end consumer, and that is how it's relevant. I don't know about the timeline of this, but I suppose it's 2024, and they've combined a sort of top line revenue of 4,000 crores across the group. I believe bulk of that would come from the real estate segment, the construction segment. All right, let's go back to our maps view to see their current active pipeline. But before that, let me share my own POV on three things that sort of stand out and some of the things that I have more recently observed in terms of the flip side of everything that happens. All right, this is the active pipeline, but the three things that stand out for me is large land assemblies and mega gated communities. That is the first thing that comes to mind, and that's how My Home stands out. They have a knack for consolidating large land parcels, and as I mentioned, My Home Ankura is staggering 75 acres. Most of their projects, as you would have seen, is 10, 15 acres. This really helps them with the economies of scale. They have the bargaining power with the landowners, with the suppliers, and they ensure that some of this benefit is passed down. That's the first. Second, timely project delivery. They call this out in their website too, but no brainer. When you have a strong vertical integration, sourcing some of the raw material becomes easy. And then this sort of gives them strong control over timelines. And as a result, they typically deliver on time with resources to handle large scale execution. The third thing is reliable baseline quality and post handover maintenance. Maintenance is a critical one. Across most of their societies, you will see consistent construction quality and well managed maintenance post handover, which is a very critical factor in gated communities. And these folks, my home group, has built strong reputation in this area. But there's a flip side, and this is my unbiased view. As you know, I'm generally very, very critical. I talk about both the good and the bad. On the flip side, and this is where I believe more recently they're slipping. They score well on fundamentals, but for me, density is a growing concern. And in fact, I was analyzing and doing some sentiment analysis on the a bunch of reviews that have come for these products, which is My Home Akrida and maybe to some extent the other ones as well. And I think increasingly a consumer sentiment is that they're becoming super dense, and it first frustrates me to some extent, and hopefully the other buyers too, because see, when you have a very strong product, a brand, and the benefit of consolidating large land parcels, you have great pricing advantage, which you should be able to pass down to the consumer. Is that happening? Yes, maybe to some extent, but having 180, 190 units per acre in a 45, 50 odd floor community, I think it's just squeezing too much out of the land parcel, in my opinion. And I know the government and the policies sort of allow for them to do so. There's nothing wrong about it, but it just hampers the living quality conditions, in my opinion. So yes, especially there are two reasons in this matter that sort of stand out. In areas where the infrastructure is not able to handle such volumes, it creates future problems. This is okay in certain areas, like let's say you have Neopolis that can handle this, maybe ORR. Some pockets Hyderabad is ready. Don't get me wrong, but some pockets it's not yet. Like I don't think this pocket is necessarily ready for a 50 floor gated community. That's the rough analysis that I've done. There is some math behind it, but I don't think it's ready. And then I'm assuming some of this pricing benefit passes down to the end consumer, and relatively they become affordable in the market. But I don't see that happening as much as it needs to. So that's the second concern. So if you're considering a property, just make sure that you are analyzing these aspects. You're looking at what are you getting as an end consumer. Are you getting the right density? Are you getting the right quality? So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at the pipeline. All right, let me keep this pipeline discussion on the ongoing projects discussion brief, because they have over 10 projects in the pipeline. So let me stick to the cluster view. Broadly, I think there are about five to six clusters. I would say five clusters. One is near the Hitech City, which is mostly one project, and then there is Kundapur and Kottaguda, and maybe the Chandanagar area. Tellapur is something that they've really penetrated, be it this belt along Gopanpalli or the RR7 belt, and then double down on Neopolis, Kokapet area as well. So let me quickly go over what are the projects that sort of stand out. Um, in Hitech City, it's their standout Bhuja, which is potentially the largest in terms of the price per square feet in Hyderabad. And then they also have Abra, in case you're interested in living close to the city, close to where all the buzz is. So that's their main project. I know it's handed over for about 1.5 year, 2 years now, but it's still active pipeline given the number of resales that happen within this project. The second cluster is Chandanagar and Kundapur. Couple of projects. Jewel has been there for a while. Raka is something that's gearing up for launch. Gearing up for handover. And then you have My Home Mangala, also handed over about a couple of years ago. The price here would be around 12K per square feet on an average, all inclusive. Then you have the Tellapur cluster, which is relatively more affordable. Along this line, you have Avali, Akrida, Sayuk, and then the price is around 8.5, 9ish. I'm sure would have escalated over the last few years, and maybe things have softened a bit. And then you have RR7 Tellapur cluster, where the price is around 8.5 ish. Vipina is one active project where I think you would see quite a few units that are up for sale. I know they're also planning another project along this road. So post webinar, post when subsequent volumes sort of come down, that's something that they'll do. And then the last, which is where all the action is, Kokapet and Neopolis. They have a bunch of projects here. They've doubled down this area. Nishada Grava 99 Pass is the one that is close to the lake. And then Traksha is the one that's been handed over for a while now, which is along the Golden Mile Road. This area should at least be around 11,000 per square feet as a base price, not the all-inclusive price. And yeah, so that's their location strategy. Key takeaway: Kokapet doubling down, especially to associate with that affluent community, and then Tellapur, the affordable class. You can see a bunch of projects there, and they have really also shifted, especially with Bhuja. I think they've changed the landscape of luxury living, which is potentially one of those rare projects that's going for 20,000 per square feet. So yes, these folks are present across different categories of gated communities. With that, let me close with final thoughts. My home is credible, well capitalized builder with massive pipeline and impressive execution capabilities. They do need to be mindful of project density, especially going forward. If things sort of slow down in terms of sales, this is the first thing. You would be sitting on a lot of inventory, which is potentially not good after a certain point. Yes, and the ability to acquire large land parcels sort of gives them the leverage and therefore the responsibility as well. In short, built for masses but still manages to speak to the aspirational buyer. Let me know if in the comments you've visited any of these projects, or would like to see a deeper comparison between my home and other top builders, which is also something that we do time and again as we go through this builder series. And as always, like, share, and subscribe for more real estate breakdowns, project reviews, or builder reviews as we're doing one. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.